The rain had started without warning, thin silver lines streaking across the windshield as Daniel Whitmore tightened his grip on the steering wheel and told his driver to turn back toward the house. Meetings had been canceled, investors delayed, and for the first time in years, the billionaire real estate tycoon was coming home early. The mansion on the hill had always felt more like a showroom than a home, polished, silent, controlled, but today, something tugged at him, a quiet restlessness he couldn't explain. Since his wife's death 3 years ago, the house had revolved around one small orbit, his 6-year-old son, Ethan. Daniel provided everything money could buy: elite schools, private tutors, security, but time was the one currency he never seemed able to spend. That responsibility had slowly shifted to the staff, especially the new maid, Maria, who had been hired just a few weeks ago after the previous nanny quit without explanation. Daniel barely remembered her face from the interview, quiet, modest, eyes lowered, but the house manager assured him she was hardworking and trustworthy. As the car pulled into the driveway, Daniel noticed something unusual: Ethan's favorite toy truck lay forgotten on the front steps. A sudden unease settled in his chest. He stepped inside, loosening his tie, expecting the usual echoing silence. Instead, he heard laughter, light, pure, unmistakably Ethan's, floating from the kitchen. Daniel froze. His heart pounded as questions rushed in. Ethan was usually in his room at this hour, studying or playing alone. Moving quietly, Daniel walked toward the sound, each step heavier than the last. What he saw stopped him cold. There, by the kitchen sink, was Maria, still in her simple gray uniform, her sleeves rolled up. Ethan was on her back, his small arms wrapped around her shoulders, laughing as if the world were safe and whole. Maria was smiling too, not the polite smile of an employee, but something warmer, almost maternal. For a split second, Daniel felt anger flare. Boundaries had been crossed. This was his son. His home. His rules. And yet, something else followed: shock, confusion, and an ache he hadn't felt in years. Ethan looked happy. Truly happy. Daniel's breath caught as Ethan turned and spotted him. "Daddy." "Look at me," the boy shouted, grinning. Maria stiffened instantly, gently lowering Ethan to the floor and turning around, her face draining of color. "Sir, I can explain," she said quickly, eyes wide with fear. Daniel's jaw tightened. Years of commanding boardrooms had taught him how to control a room with silence alone, and the kitchen seemed to shrink under it. "Explain," he said coldly. Maria swallowed. Her hands trembled slightly as she clasped them together. "Ethan was feeling lonely," she began softly. "He said you were always busy, and he missed his mother today. He had a nightmare during his nap. I just tried to comfort him." The words hit Daniel harder than any accusation. He glanced at Ethan, who had grown quiet now, eyes darting between the two adults. "Is that true?" Daniel asked, his voice softer despite himself. Ethan nodded slowly. "She tells me stories like Mommy used to," he whispered. Something inside Daniel cracked. Memories flooded back, his wife sitting at that very counter, laughing, lifting Ethan onto her back, pretending to be a horse. He had buried those moments deep, believing that moving forward meant never looking back. Maria continued, her voice trembling. "I know my place, sir. I would never mean to disrespect you. But I lost my son 2 years ago. He was Ethan's age." Daniel looked at her sharply. She hadn't mentioned this in her interview. "He passed away from an illness we couldn't afford to treat," she went on, tears pooling in her eyes. "When Ethan cries, when he laughs, it feels like I'm holding my own child again. I'm sorry if that's wrong." Silence stretched between them, heavy and raw. Daniel felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest: guilt. He had spent millions on acquisitions, properties, and status, yet his son had been craving something no amount of money could replace: presence, warmth, connection. And Maria, this quiet woman he barely noticed, had given Ethan what he himself had failed to provide. Daniel knelt down in front of his son. "Ethan," he said gently, "are you happy when Maria is with you?" Ethan nodded without hesitation. "She listens to me, Daddy." That was the moment the truth fully hit him, not as a shock, but as a revelation. The danger wasn't that the maid had crossed a line. The danger was that he had drawn the line so far away from his own child that someone else had to step in. Daniel stood up slowly, turning to Maria. She braced herself, clearly expecting to be fired. Instead, Daniel did something no one in his company had ever seen. He bowed his head slightly. "Thank you," he said quietly. Maria looked up, stunned. "Thank you for being there when I wasn't." Tears spilled freely now, not just from Maria, but from Daniel too, though he quickly wiped them away. That evening, Daniel canceled his remaining meetings for the week. He sat with Ethan at dinner, listened to his stories, and even laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years. Maria remained part of their lives, not just as a maid, but as a reminder of what truly mattered. And in that grand mansion, something priceless finally returned, a sense of family. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that true wealth isn't measured in money but in love and presence, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. More powerful stories are coming, and you won't want to miss them.